Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. It is January 16th, 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for such a late start this evening, but myself and Dr. Albers, we've been working on these SDO photographs. Oops. Hold on one second. I have another screen running. There we go. Sorry about that. But anyways, we've been working on these SDO images. And all of you know that the SDO website, it has been down, I think for approximately 36 hours. Now, the website just came back up. But, you know, something that was very, very suspicious, naturally, anything that has to do with NASA or the government, yes, always very suspicious. Whenever myself and Dr. Albers made this discovery the other day, and I wanted to thank Mr. MBB333, his YouTube channel. You know, he kind of uncovered some of this for us by pointing out some kind of honeycomb structures, as he called it. And he was just making an analogy to this formation that he saw on the sun. And I just happened to be in his live stream, and he pointed it out, and I went and I checked it out. And after a little while of searching around in the different wavelengths of light that are available on the SDO, we discovered several things that just should not have been there. And it was pretty incredible. Now, I took some screenshots, downloaded some video, and the next thing you know, within hours, the SDO Solar Dynamics Observatory website was taken down offline, completely offline. Sometimes that does happen, folks, but, you know, it's for a few hours, maybe. Never have I seen it down for more than 24 hours, 36 hours. So, you know, I'm not saying they're beeping in on me. They're listening to what Dr. Albers and I discuss. Who knows? But all I know, it's pretty fishy that all of a sudden, you know, we're exchanging some emails, we're going over these photographs, and like I said, within hours, the site goes down for about 36 hours. I did a live stream. I showed some of these photographs, and shortly after the website went back up, I went back to the exact time set, and well, naturally, you know, this object formation, it's gone. There is kind of a light blue, I don't even know what to call it. They kind of masked over that area in a few frames. There is a bunch of missing time in the SDO footage from the time period that we made this discovery. So, you know, it kind of leads me to believe that they're probably listening to me. They're definitely listening to Dr. Albers. And, you know, that kind of makes me a little jittery to know that these people are eavesdropping on both of us. But it is what it is. Mm-hmm. You know, we're not going to stop doing what we're doing just because, you know, the feds are tuning into us. Maybe they'll learn something. What do you think, Dr. Albers?
Well, most certainly, we do know that they hide as much as possible of whatever is going on with the sun, and they have been doing it for a long time. But it is our job to find out what they are hiding. And
I agree.
Yes, we do our best.
Now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. And I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the SDO because I have it set up where we could see at least six of the different angstroms of light. Let me just check something here real quick. I'm going to make sure I'm sharing this. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. I got a bunch of screens open, so I just want to make sure that I'm sharing all of this with all of you. Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Albers, you want to explain to everyone, what we're looking at here as far as how the Solar Dynamics Observatory works, the different angstroms of light, the extreme ultraviolet light frequencies that we're viewing right now. Just if you want to give everybody a brief synopsis of what we're looking at, and then we're going to go into trying to explain this long plasma river or plasma jet, as scientists have called it, but there's a high possibility that it's definitely something else. But if you want to go ahead and explain the SDO.
I can do that, Scott. Well, first of all, the SDO satellite detects the light coming off, radiation coming off the sun in the different wavelengths. And the one that is the most interesting to me most of the time is the 304, which is the red one. And that one is light that comes from the top of the chromosphere. And the chromosphere is the layer on the sun that is just below the corona. And then the purple one and the light brown one we see at the bottom, that's the purple is the 211 and that light brown one is the 193. That one shows the normal corona. Both of them show the normal corona. And then the yellow one is the 131. That shows the transition between the chromosphere and the corona. And in all of these, we seem to see a gash on the sun. It almost looks like a channel has been cut just south of the equator of the sun. And that gash I have seen, I've been examining it, and it goes all the way down to the top of the photosphere, which is the surface of the sun. And so it's a very deep gash, and we can actually see a river of plasma flowing along it, especially in the yellow one, which is the one that's right at the top of the chromosphere. Now, the blue one that we see, this is the second one on the top, or the middle one. That one is the 131, and that light comes from a portion of the corona that is extremely hot. It's at 10 million degrees Kelvin. And we see the gash in that as well. And so I believe that this is a gash that is, most of it is in the chromosphere, and it goes all the way down to the photosphere. And this has been opened on the sun by it interacting one of these stellar cores. And we've seen things like this before. I've written about a blemish that occurred in August and July of 2017. And that must have been also due to an interaction with one of these objects. And it seems that as they pull plasma from the sun, they pull it right from the chromosphere, which I believe is actually in the liquid phase. The sun seems to be made out of plasma, but it's complex plasma, which can exist in the liquid and solid phases. And these objects are pulling plasma from the chromosphere, and the stronger they are, the deeper down they go. And this particular one that cut this gash must have been very strong, must have had a very strong magnetic field, and it cut this gash all the way down to the bottom of the chromosphere, and it leaves this channel in the cut in the sun, and it must be made out of a semi-solid material in order to last for so long. It's not filled in by the material around it. So we have now this gash that has been cut in the sun. But what is most dangerous about these objects is that I've noticed that even the stellar cores that make normal connections with the sun that we have been finding in the sun's corona for a while, the plasma connection is extremely hot because we can see it clearly in this wavelength, the 131, the blue one we're seeing now. And this, as I said before, comes from light that is emitted by plasma at extremely high temperatures, 10 million Kelvin. So this means that they make a very strong connection with the sun. And this is also the light that we usually see whenever there is flaring. So this explains why these objects can cause these strong solar flares on the sun. And now if we have these ones that are even stronger making these connections, of course, the danger of having very strong solar flares as a result has gone even higher. So this is the danger that we are facing due to these objects having invaded our solar system, having come right up to the sun. They've become a part of the nucleus of our solar system. So these are additional stars in the inner solar system. They are interacting with the sun, draining energy from the sun, absorbing plasma from it, interacting with it, and causing all kinds of upheaval on our star.
So, Dr. Albers, real quick, as we're looking at these different wavelengths of light, yes. So everybody knows whenever we're looking at this Solar Dynamics Observatory, the SDO as we refer to it, the different colors, the different scenes that you see here. Mm-hmm. So this is representing different layers, different levels of the sun, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, just so everybody knows and they understand what we're looking at and why we look at this, mm-hmm. because this gives us different views of the sun's corona. This gives us views of the sun with the outer corona taken away. Like, for instance, the 193 here and the 304 here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the 304 here. And when we look at the 304 here, we're able to see a lot of the plasma discharges, the filament releases and the filament loops, yes. and things of that nature. And there's a lot that you can detect from this. Now, the plasma river that we are referring to, you mm-hmm. can barely see it at this yes. point.
That's right. Because the river is actually in the chromosphere. And this is what we see in this wavelength of light. It's the top of the chromosphere. And this is the liquid layer just underneath the corona, which is like the gaseous atmosphere of the sun. And a few days ago, the gas was definitely more visible than it is right now. So it seems to slowly be filling in. But it's definitely in the chromosphere. So this is where these objects make their connections. They obviously draw plasma from the chromosphere. They go through the corona down to the chromosphere, and that's where they draw their plasma from. And this is also, I think, why the sun has been losing brightness more in the chromosphere than any other layer.
Now, let's get into referencing these coronal holes, because right now, right above the equatorial region of the sun, meaning the equator or the center point of the sun, we see a very, very large coronal hole opening up yes. that currently is Earth facing. That is a very large coronal hole. I mean, it looks very deep in a sense because of the deep dark color. Usually we see some activity in these coronal holes. Now, this one does seem to have a little bit of activity going on inside of it, but do you want to give everybody a brief synopsis of what these coronal holes are and the damage that they do to the Earth, the potential damage, and the solar wind?
Mm-hmm. So coronal holes are areas where the density of the gaseous atmosphere of the sun, the corona, is lower. So the light that comes off that layer, which we see in the 211, and this is the 211 angstrom view, the purple view. So there's less light coming off that layer, and that's why it looks dark. Now, there is light coming off the layer below that. So these are not actually spots where there is no light coming from. But the corona is basically missing in that area. And that means that very fast solar wind comes from underneath it. This is also because the magnetic field lines in that region of the sun are perpendicular to the surface of the sun. So they jut right out. And the reason why they do that is because there is a connection between the stellar core and that region. But the stellar core is not in the sun's corona. It's most likely quite some distance away. But they still connect to the sun magnetically, although the connection is not as strong. And that means that plasma particles in that region of the corona spiral along the magnetic field lines that are coming out from that region, and they flow towards the stellar core. So that's what causes this opening up of coronal holes on the sun. And of course, the more stellar cores are out there, the larger and these coronal holes will be, and the more of them we will find. But we have this very fast moving coronal particles coming off these regions. And so this causes fast solar wind, which impacts the Earth's magnetosphere and leads to ionization of our ionosphere. And then it leads to effects in our atmosphere. It induces currents in the atmosphere and inside the Earth. And these would lead to seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, weather patterns changing, and things like that as a result.
What's the other terminology for seismic activity?
Earthquake.
For us laymen.
Earthquake activity.
Exactly. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen a considerable amount of an uptick in earthquakes. Not only an uptick, but an uptick in the higher magnitude of earthquakes. And just hours ago, there was a magnitude, I think, of 4.9 or 5.0, something like that, in the Fiji Islands once again. And there must be, I don't even know how to word this, something must be going on specifically in that region in the South Pacific near the Fiji Islands, because we continually see these deep earthquakes. Mm-hmm. Now, the earthquake that occurred there hours ago was almost 400 miles deep, 600 and some kilometers deep. We consistently see these deep earthquakes in that region, and that's very, very concerning, because in that region of the South Pacific, all of that seismic activity eventually makes its way all the way across the Pacific Ocean, and it impacts the western coast of South America, Central America, Mexico, and possibly even eventually the southern part of the United States, meaning the California region, Southern California region. But we've been seeing these consistent earthquakes all along the western coast of Mexico, now quite frequently along the western coast of Central America. And folks, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, is this ever going to end? And all I could really say, folks, is, you know, based on the last 2 years of very serious observations, digging deep in every aspect, we are only in the beginning of what we're really going to see. And again, to be honest, we can only take this day by day. Mm-hmm. You know, we don't have a crystal ball. If we did, believe me, we would be out here telling all of you everything there is to know. But, you know, we have to continue digging and digging and digging and digging for the answers. We have to create theories on what we're seeing, because again, you know, science is based on theories. And Dr. Albers is a very, very educated physicist. And, a lot of people ask about her background in astronomy. There have been remarks made, oh, well, she's not an astronomer. But let's just go ahead and talk about astronomy. Let's talk about your background in astronomy. Dr. Albers, I love your story about you as a little girl and, your fascination with astronomy at a very young age.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're talking to a woman that at one point in her life as a little girl, she did not want to play with Barbie dolls. She was already reading books on astronomy.
Yes.
And then making her own telescope. But if you want to go ahead and just take point back in your childhood, what I was just mentioning, and just refresh everyone's memory, because we have a lot of new subscribers and they would probably love to hear this story because it is fascinating.
Well, I must give credit to my mom, because she was a wonderful woman, and she believed in education. So she started me early. And she was the one that bought me a book on astronomy, a children's book on astronomy. And I think she bought me this book when I was very young. I mean, I don't think I could read yet when she bought me this book. But it fascinated me so much that I read it many, many times, over and over again, once I started reading. And I decided right then that I wanted to be an astronomer. And this book said that if you want to be an astronomer, you must study physics and mathematics at university. And I decided then, I mean, by the time I was 6, I had decided that I wanted to study astronomy. And then when I was 9, I was still using this book, and I decided I needed a telescope. And so I got my mom to buy me the lenses, and I built my own very simple telescope. But, it was quite an experience to be able to do that for myself. And yes, so I built my own telescope. I mounted the lenses. I made it myself. Yeah, and like I said, my mom was so wonderful. She really believed that I could be anything I wanted to be, and she gave me an opportunity to learn as much about the world as possible. And I had to learn. Well, I did ballet and learned to play the piano and learn to sew and things like that. So, and she talked to me all the time.
That's
so
good.
That's how it all started.
That's a fascinating, fascinating childhood. My mom was like that with me also. Constant learning process.
Yes.
From a very, very young age. Same thing with my grandmother. These two ladies basically formed me, to what I am now. Yeah. And it's kind of sad to say that it seems that today's society has just taken a whole different way of literally training their kids. And that's what it really is. You are training your children. And I mean, I grew up in the kitchen with my grandmother, cooking, cleaning, things of that nature. I mean, she taught me how to use the washer and dryer, take care of myself in a sense. And, I instilled the same things in my kids. But I don't see a lot of that now. I don't see kids in the kitchen, at the age of 10, 11, 12 years old, learning how to take care of themselves. It's fascinating to see how times have really changed.
That's right.
And they've changed with technology. Also we have microwaves now. When I was a young kid, microwaves existed. But, you had to have some kind of money to afford that microwave.
Yes.
But, everything we did was on the stove. It was done old school, bake the bread, make the pasta, stir the sauce.
Yes.
But that's fascinating to listen to your upbringing. And as everybody says that listens to our channel, it's an honor to have you here. It's an honor to have your intelligence with us. because we definitely need it, and we need it in the science background for sure. But I didn't get a chance to show you this photograph here. I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Oh, I was going to tell you what happened when I started university. I wanted to do astronomy, but it wasn't offered by the university at the time. That was the University of the Witwatersrand in South Africa. And so I decided to major in physics, and that's what I did. Now, it didn't stop me from going on and reading books on astronomy and cosmology and so on. I did go on and read a lot of books, especially in first year when I had some extra time. But so I majored in physics, and I ended up doing a PhD in particle physics. And I kept my interest in astrophysics and cosmology mainly. And when I taught physics at that university, I used to teach a little bit of astronomy. There was at least one portion of the course that was on astronomy. So I actually taught very basic astronomy to my students. So the thing is, if you train as an astronomer, you actually go through all the same courses that all the physicists are trained with. You just end up doing one extra course, which teaches you a little bit about how things are named and things like that. But the training, the thinking that an astronomer is trained with is the same as all other physicists. So they basically.
What I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, you know, what would be the level requirements in the education of someone who wanted to be a professional astronomer? Because, you know, mathematics is going to play a key role in a professional astronomer, as well as physics and as theory.
That's right. So a physicist is basically someone who has been trying to think in a certain way. This is what students don't realize often, is that it's not so much about the theories you learn, but it's about how you learn to think. So the mind is programmed to think in a certain way. It's a step-by-step way. And the mind of a physicist has to be trained to ignore some things in order to focus properly on one thing at a time in a step-by-step fashion in order to solve problems. This is what physicists actually do, and that is solve problems in a methodical sort of way. So you start with your assumptions, and then in a logical way, there is some creativity involved as well. But it's a way to solve problems. And this is what I was doing as a lecturer. I was training my students to think like physicists. And so astronomers are trained in the same way. They approach problem solving in the same way. And any physicist can change from one field to another. It takes some learning, but all physicists do not remember everything they have ever been taught. Whenever they move from one small field to another, they will hit the books and relearn what they may have forgotten, or learn what they haven't actually learned yet about that particular field. But they have been trying to think and learn whatever it is they need to learn. And so this is what I have been doing in studying the stellar course, is learning what I need to learn, putting it together with my own thinking process in order to solve problems and come up with what is actually happening on the sun. This is what I have been trained to do as a physicist.
So how long were you employed as a professor of physics at which university?
17 years, Scott. I lectured for 17 years.
So let me ask you something. You know, do you think you are? This is just a stupid question, but do you think that you are trained? Do you think you're an authority to speak on the subject matters that we investigate?
Well, Scott, you
Don't
know,
be modest.
I don't like to
Modest.
blow my own horn, of course. I do the best that I can to bring people the truth. I have been trained to do this, as I said before, to think like a physicist and to come up with explanations for the observations that I see. This is my training. I don't see any other physicists coming up with, they don't bother. And like I said before, I had talked to astronomers. I had an astronomer who was right next to his office was right next to my office at Wits University. And he taught me, look, we can talk to each other about these things, but we do not tell the public about this. This confuses the public. We must not talk about these things to the public. So this is the sort of view that most physicists have. We do not confuse the public. We keep on just telling them about the accepted theories, and that's it.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, just cut and dry. What Dr. Albers is explaining to you, and I'll explain it to you in layman's terms. This is the back room talk of science. Okay, so basically what she's saying is another coworker, another professor that she works with, you know, he was a professor of astronomy. She wanted to sit down and talk about this subject matter and share this information, you know, and as she talked about it and shared the information with him, it spooked him. But first and foremost, you know, it spooked his career, because if you go out there and you start divulging the information that we are, well, number one, you're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble. You're going to get yourself in a lot of trouble, probably with the university, and because it's so controversial, and you're probably going to get yourself in a professional jam. And, you know, something similar happened with Dr. Albers' 17-year career, you know, but that was based on these trolling factions on YouTube. And they eventually found out where she was employed at the university, and they started harassing the head, the chancellor of the school, the dean, and email after email after email after email. And, you know, one thing led to another, and they actually suspended Dr. Albers. But, you know, she wasn't doing any of this research on university time. She wasn't using their facility. She wasn't using anything other than her own brain and her own time. Mm-hmm. But, you know, thanks to these YouTube trolls, they successfully, you know, caused a problem within her life and her career. Yeah. That was completely changed, though. I mean, it actually turned out to be something of benefit to all of us and to her. You know, it allowed her to retire with her full benefits and move to the United States and continue her research and spend more time working on these projects. And listen, when I mean working on these projects, Dr. Albers puts in a minimum of 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, researching everything that she puts into her videos and going over a lot of information with me, things that I'm finding. And you know, listen, she is a beautiful asset to all of us because she's sharing her knowledge with all of us. This is a huge, huge help. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a trained physicist. I am not a trained astronomer. You know, I've had a fascination with Earth space science since 9th grade, and I've always loved it. I just hate the math. Excuse me. And Dr. Albers, you know, your mathematical knowledge you're pretty skilled in math, aren't you? I've seen you do these equations that are like, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines long, and I just look at them and there's all kind of symbols and there's all kind of letters and numbers, and I'm like, oh my God, no, she's into the math again. Ah!
Yeah, well, Scott, the kind of maths I had to do for my PhD was the kind where one calculation would take 2 weeks. And
2 weeks, I'd be out of there in 2 minutes.
And then you get to the end, because no one has ever calculated this, and it was just calculating Feynman diagrams. And you get to the end, and then you have to do it again to make sure you get the same result again. And if the next time you do the calculation, you get the sign wrong or a factor of 2 wrong, then you have to do it again. So you have to do it a couple of times. But to tell you the truth, even as a student, I love doing mathematics. For me, solving an integral was like, it was fun for me. Mathematics has always been fun for me.
You know what's fun for me? Kicking back with the wind in my hair,
yes,
on a Harley, cruising down the highway on a beautiful, clear day. But you know what? I don't get a clear day because they chemtrail the living hell out of the skies.
That's right.
So, just had to throw that out there.
Yes, I know.
I wanted to get into these images and what they've done with the SDO. And ladies and gentlemen, if you watch the live stream that I did earlier and last night, showed you guys the information that we pulled up, and we're going to go ahead and share that with you. But right off the bat, as soon as the Solar Dynamics Observatory's website came back up, well, bingo, as soon as I go back to try and duplicate the information that I showed in the previous live stream, I come up with this crazy looking, I don't even know what this is. This is some kind of a masking blue blocker. You know, they do this all the time. And these are the first images that came up. And we were looking right over here in this region, and I'll blow it up for you. And now you can see, you know, they got this little blue line across here, this little blue box. You can see through it, but now everything is blurred, distorted.
Yes, it looks like a filter. They place filters on top in order to hide certain specific characteristics that we're not supposed
you know, and here's a little bit of a different coloration, but this, you know, this clearly defines the masking of this object. Now, I've had, you know, many times others, you know, email me, and some of these ridiculous trolls, you know, they try to tell me that, oh, this is the satellite passing by. What satellite? what satellite's passing in front of the SDO? That what is this? And you know, that's a complete lie. It's a distortion of the truth, folks. But you know, even with this this light blue block that they put over this region, and we can kind of zoom in there, and I don't know what really they're trying to do, but the object that we were looking at was over in this area, and you can still see almost half of the spherical outline right here. So, I mean, they didn't do a good job. And whenever you watch this 48-hour loop, it goes by very, very fast. So this blue box right here, it just blinks right in front of your eye. You may not even notice it, but I always download this information as it updates itself on every wavelength of light. And I slow it down. I slow it down to 50%. So I'm able to, you know, see something that may just flash in front of my eyes. A lot of times that's how we identify this object as it's in this orbit around the sun. And we're going to go ahead and pull some of these up. And you know, this is another current photograph of the same time. And now things are just completely blurred. This was taken and placed in a black and white. I'll zoom in a little bit here. They kind of didn't do a really good job. I haven't done anything to this photograph, simple screenshot, and it's even in high definition. And they've kind of blurred this out a little bit. So, you know, we were looking right here. Now, you can clearly see right there, that is a perfect sphere. Perfect. But again, they've already done their work in that 36-hour period when they had the SDO website down. Nobody can access it. And this is what we go through. So why would they go to the extents if this was absolutely nothing in that region? Why would they go to all of these extents to change things around, take the website down for 36 hours, make sure there was absolutely nothing in the current SDO public footage that would be put up online? Make sure there is nothing in those photos, that 48-hour loop footage. But, you know, fortunately for us, we keep on top of it, and we have the photographs and the evidence before they took the site down. And we publicized a little bit of it. You know, I put a few posts up on the Planet X News Facebook page showing what I was working on. And hours later, bingo, the SDO website taken offline to the public. What do you think about that, Doctor?
Well, of course, that's to be expected, Scott. I think they decided a long time ago to hide these objects from the public. And the operation continues. They continue to do their best to hide this information from the public. They don't want people to know the truth about what's going on. For some reason, they think that it's very scary, and possibly it is, but I think people have the right to know the truth and prepare as best as they can.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
But it's to be expected. This is what they do, and we do the opposite. We try to tell people the truth. We do the best that we can with whatever is available, whatever is made available to us, whatever information we can get. We do the best that we can, and they do their best to hide it, of course.
Yeah, this photograph we're looking at right here, folks. This was again, this is a current photograph taken after the SDO went back up online, and going back to the footage that we discovered this object. It's passing in front of the sun, and I mean, passing between the Earth and the sun, but within the sun's outer corona. And you know, kind of to put, you know, a clear view on what I'm trying to describe, it's almost like the clouds passing in front of the sun. You get that, you know, kind of hazy look, or if you have these big puffy clouds, they cover up the sun for a little while, and the clouds move by, and the sun is now exposed again. You can see it. Well, this is kind of the same situation right here. This object is so close to the sun, and the outreach of the sun's corona is very far. You know, I mean, it varies as the sun rotates and the energy from the sun, but this object is that close that it can kind of be cloaked within the corona of the sun. And that's why the Solar Dynamics Observatory spacecraft, that's why the cameras on the spacecraft take these photos and video of the sun in different wavelengths of light, because they're looking at different things. And you need to start separating the wavelengths of light to see deeper and deeper into the sun. And this is a current photograph. Again, they've tried everything they could to, you know, kind of hide this a little bit, because the original photographs that we took yesterday, same time, same bat channel, they tried to cover it up. No doubt. And you could clearly see a perfect dark sphere. Like I mentioned in the other live stream that I did, folks, this area right here, it doesn't match the rest of the area on the sun. It is a clear, perfect sphere. Dr. Albers, what do you think the chances are, or the odds, that within the bubbly surface of the sun, what are the chances of a perfect spherical shape appearing like this?
Well, it's impossible, of course, Scott, and it's impossible that even if it appeared for a moment, that it would retain its shape for as many frames as this one does. So obviously there's an object there. It's in the sun's corona. And the sun's corona goes up, as you said, to quite a high altitude off the sun's surface. And these objects are connecting to the sun inside the sun's corona, and they're enveloped in the corona. So, of course, they are hidden from our view most of the time. This is why we've been able to see them edge on, that is, on either side of the sun, and not as easily in front of the sun. So facing Earth in that position. But now we are starting to see that. And this is also because the sun's corona is getting smaller and smaller. It's decreasing. And the sun is becoming more and more like a whole coronal hole. I've been saying this for a while. The sun seems to be becoming the whole thing a coronal hole. So this is also why it's easier for us to see these objects nowadays.
Now we're getting back in time here a little bit, folks, just a couple of days in these photographs, because, you know, we've been working on this now since the 13th of January. Today's the 16th. So, you know, almost three complete days. Mm-hmm. And what tipped us off on what was occurring was Mr. MBB333, fantastic YouTube channel. And the guy is very impressive as far as his knowledge goes. If you guys are not subscribed to his channel, I would definitely subscribe. Just a wealth of knowledge and very, very good reporting. And first and foremost, the man is a watchman. You know, he is a watchman. And, you know, that's what counts. Very similar to myself and Dr. Albers. But Mr. MB333, he covers a variety of subjects. They all deal with Earth and space, and very good reporting, folks. But he was looking at the SDO, and he noticed, you know, just a very, very strange formation. And again, you know, he's been doing this for a very, very long time. And it was kind of a honeycomb look, as he described it. This circle formation down here. And, you know, it was just kind of out of place, kind of odd. You know, when you look at these satellites and the footage for years at a time, you know, you really get to know what's happening on the sun. You get to know how to use the tools.
Yes.
I've never seen anything like that type of formation either. It could be a simple anomaly, or it could really be something. You know, and he gave us a little shout out about taking a look at this current piece of footage. So I did. And, you know, I put it through my own techniques to view every inch of the sun. And that's what I do. And that's how we make some of these discoveries. So as I looked at the piece of footage that he referenced to, zooming in and just a few filter changes to give me a broader spectrum of view, a bingo. What do I see directly Earth facing? And I mean, this is in direct alignment with the Earth. If you look, it is just a fraction below the equatorial region of the sun. I mean, just a fraction below. So as I tuned in on it and I started looking at it, and I'm like, whoa, okay, time to back up for a minute here. And now we're looking once again at a perfect outlined sphere within, you know, the bubbling makeups of the sun, not just in one frame, but in multiple frames, meaning it's there for hours, possibly even a complete day, because this is a 2-day loop, a 48-hour loop. So, you know, again, Dr. Albers, the chances of seeing something like this where the arrow is pointed to, I mean, what are the possibilities?
Well, basically, it's impossible. As I said before, we have a clearly circular outline, which remains in place in frame after frame. And there's only one thing that could create that, and that's an actual spherical object inside the corona. And it's obviously enveloped in coronal plasma. And we know that the stellar cores, this is the way they connect to the sun. They go into the corona, the coronal plasma envelops them, and that's why they're so difficult to see. So basically, it means we have one object in there. And this object, I actually estimated its size is just a little smaller than, slightly smaller than Jupiter, about 80% of its radius, I think. And so obviously that's what we have there.
So see, and that's something I want to just point out, folks, this is an X-ray view. Let me just back out here real quick. This is an X-ray view, an inverted X-ray view of the same region.
Mm-hmm.
And, we go through a couple of different techniques to, try to make sure that what we're looking at is a perfect sphere. And, measuring, having the ability to measure this sphere from one end to the other and giving us a perfect sphere. Well, like I said, in my past live stream, nature doesn't create 90-degree angles. Nature does not create perfect spheres. What we're looking at here is a perfect sphere. I'll zoom in for you. Now, remember, this sphere is moving across the front face of the sun, and it is that close to the sun that it is being enveloped by the outer corona of the sun. And, believe it or not, I mean, that actually gives it a little bit of stealth because it is harder to see. Now, if this object was giving off its own light, then we would definitely see it crystal clear. But because this object does not give off its own light, it's better seen in, an extreme infrared light, which we don't have access to. And I'm sure the NASA scientists get to view it in, that extreme infrared and high resolution. We don't.
Mm-hmm.
So you just want to go over a little bit about what you're seeing here, Doctor, in this view?
Well, we know these objects, when they come into the solar system, as you say, are weak. They do not emit visible light because they are cool. They have aged, they have weakened, they are weak stars. But when they come into the sun's corona and they start connecting to the sun, they actually absorb plasma from the sun that the sun uses to produce light. So they start being able to emit light like the sun does, because they enveloped in the same material. They enveloped in plasma from the chromosphere. I've already said how they absorb plasma from the chromosphere. So they would be able to start emitting that light as well, because they enveloped in it. And then they around that, on top of that, they will have plasma from the corona. So this is why they look like part of the sun, because they enveloped in the same material as the sun. So they would emit exactly the same radiation that the chromosphere and the corona emits. So they look like part of the sun, but yet that the corona, because it envelops these objects clearly, the fact that they are spherical can be seen in the circular outlines that we see around them. And this is how we see them. Now, you have photographed the blue stellar core, which was one of the most amazing discoveries we've had, because we don't have much data except for when we make these fantastic discoveries. And this stellar core was seen shedding the ionizing material that it came into the solar system with. It was seen connecting to the sun and absorbing plasma from the sun. And it was obviously starting to emit light from the core itself. It was bluish. That's why it looked blue. So these objects are stars. And of course, stars emit light. This is how we differentiate between planets and stars. Stars emit light. Planets only reflect light. So these objects obviously get to the point by absorbing energy from the sun where they rejuvenate to the point they start emitting light once again. And the fact that we could see that stellar core in being blue means they do start emitting visible light once again, eventually, as they absorb energy from the sun.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the SDO photographs that we captured just before they took the site down. This was one of the photographs that I publicized on the Planet X News Facebook page. And again, you know, I'm sure they monitor my Facebook page. I'm sure they monitor Twitter, our website, our live feeds here on YouTube. There's no doubt about that. They're probably all sitting in the control room now, you know, listening to us and watching what we're doing. But this is these are the captures before they took the SDO down, and now, you know, we don't have the images anymore, but it doesn't matter. You know, I documented all this completely. We have all of the footage and the information, so that's what counts. But this is what we started to look at, and really didn't need too many filter changes to bring out this object. But with this slight filter change, I mean, once again, you know, now we're seeing a better view of a perfect sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's encapsulated here a little bit at the bottom with what is actually happening, meaning there seems to be a very, very intense direct connection with the sun. And this is part of that plasma river that I was referring to as defined by scientists since, I don't know, the mid 1970s. You don't get to see these very often because they don't occur on the sun that often.
Yeah, the thing is, Scott, they are supposed to be rivers of plasma, but they're supposed to be under the surface. That means they're supposed to be below the photosphere. But what we are seeing is a river of plasma in the chromosphere, which is above the surface. But what this indicates is, as I've said before, that the chromosphere is liquid, almost like magma. And it flows. This is why we can get to see rivers in it. But the only reason we're seeing this, and we were not able to see it before, is because there has been an opening made into the sun so that we can see further down into the chromosphere than we usually are able to see. And obviously,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So obviously there are flows in the chromosphere, but that means that the chromosphere is liquid. And as I've said before, it is in a liquid phase. It's like magma, but it's so hot that it boils and therefore has this turbulent sort of flow most of the time, which is what gives that appearance to the chromosphere, the bubbling. And it's a liquid that is boiling, basically, like boiling magma on the sun. And most, the accepted theory will tell us that the sun is just gaseous. And it's becoming clear, especially because of what the stellar cores are doing to the sun, and that's not the case. Most of we've been taught about the sun, about stars, is all wrong. First of all, they're electrical in nature, the universe is electrical in nature, but accepted theory has only this gravitational view of the universe. Everything's supposed to be explained by gravitational collapse. And these stellar cores, the observation of how they are interacting with the sun has shown us then that's not the case. They don't interact gravitationally with the sun at all. It's an electrical interaction.
Okay, Dr. Albers, I want to talk about this specific scene that we're looking at right here, because, ladies and gentlemen, listen to us very, very carefully. I hope you're all watching this on a computer screen. If you're watching this on your cell phone, it may be a little harder for you to see. There's a lot going on in this photograph. And whenever you look at it, you know, from a distance, and this has been magnified just a little bit, but if you were actually looking at this on the surface of the sun with the full disk, you may not notice too much. But again, as we go ahead and zoom in here, we're going to get a better definition of this sphere. You can actually see stripes on this object. These stripes, they actually match up. What this object looks like is matching up to everything that we've detected over the course of almost the last 2 years. So what are the odds of that? Slim to none. So
Yeah,
we know it's a real
that's
object. We know it's there.
Yeah, and it's surprising that these objects have stripes. The blue stellar core had stripes initially, and then we found that other one that was about 4 times the size of the Earth that had stripes on it as well. Obviously, these objects have stripes. They're ionizing material, whatever's left on it, it attaches itself to the core and forms these stripes. And this is not surprising because most of the gas giant planets have stripes on them as well. And that is to conform to the magnetic symmetry of these objects, where the magnetic field is very intense at the north and the south pole, and it has this toroidal symmetry, which then would result in stripes aligned with the equator of the object. So this is to be expected, that all these types of objects that have a corona, and that is an atmosphere and ionizing material, would form stripes on the object. And but it has led me to realize, I wrote in one of the articles, that Jupiter and Saturn, which both emit more radiation than they absorb from the sun, or they can get from the sun, or possibly were once one of these objects, but they have weakened to such an extent that they're not able to even connect to the sun and rejuvenate anymore.
Yeah, I mean, due to the distance that they are from the sun.
I don't think it's to do with distance, because these objects, even from a great distance, they would detect the sun, and the fact that they have a strong magnetic field, they would be drawn right into the sun, make a magnetic connection, and start drawing energy. I think that stellar cores get to the point where they're so weak that their magnetic field weakens to the point they're no longer able to make this connection and draw energy anymore.
Yeah, what I meant by the distance of these of Saturn and Jupiter.
Yes.
If you changed the distance of these two planets and you brought these two planets in closer to the sun, now we're going to be dealing with two totally different planets. Meaning it would change the complexity of the planet instantaneously.
Yes.
If you moved Jupiter to the point where Venus is, same thing with Saturn. If you brought these two planets closer to the sun, we'd be definitely dealing with a different situation. That's kind of what I meant there.
Yes.
But getting back into this photograph real quick, I want to point out some things, folks. This plasma river, and I'm going to pan out. If you're really not paying attention, you would think this, we'll just call it the plasma river, because that's how scientists have named this type of structure. You really wouldn't recognize that this starts right here on this object.
Yeah.
So like Dr. Albers said, this should be something that would be closer to the inner surface of the sun, not way out in the corona. So as we look at this, it actually has made an attachment. Something is occurring here of very violent proportions, I would have to say. This would be a very violent situation to be in if you were this planet, or excuse me, if you were this this object right here.
Yes.
So something else that we're looking at is this very, very bright region here. Now, initially, folks, whenever I started watching this this plasma river form, and that was back on the I think the 10th and 11th of January, I started seeing this. I did a short video about it. We didn't detect this object yet because it wasn't coming around yet. But when you're looking at this very, very bright region right here, you would actually think that this was something occurring on the sun. Like, for instance, a sunspot or a very, very highly active region.
Mm-hmm.
But now, as we see, whatever's happening right here is of very high intensity.
Yes.
And it's not happening on the sun.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening on this object right here.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you earlier today, Doctor, when we were talking about this,
Mm-hmm.
because this object has been so close to the sun for, well, we don't know exactly how long, but it's been pretty close over the past 2 years. Do you think there is a way that this region is now becoming an active region on our planet X?
I don't think, well, it looks very bright.
Well, I mean, what I mean is there a possibility that all of a sudden, because it's been so close to the sun for this length of time,
Mm-hmm.
is there a possibility that this object is starting to emit some of its own light? Because
oh yes, definitely.
A very bright region.
Yes, that bright region, it does seem to be associated with that object. It seems to actually be slightly above the corona, almost. You cannot be certain, but definitely these objects do start emitting their own light. Don't forget, they are stars, they rejuvenate, and they get brighter and brighter as time goes on. I don't think they can get much brighter than the sun itself, because whatever energy they have absorbed comes from the sun. But they definitely start emitting their own light. They start behaving like stars themselves. They can have solar flares just like the sun. They produce these plasma loops as well. And all of this happens. They are stars that rejuvenate because of absorbing energy from the sun. And that does look, like you said, a very intense spot on one of these stellar cores.
Yeah, it does. As I was zooming into this, now all of a sudden I start to see a perfect outline
Mm-hmm.
of a sphere, and then this very extreme white area here. That's kind of odd. I really didn't look at that close.
Obviously emitting ultraviolet radiation, because these are all ultraviolet frequencies. So this is a very bright intensity emitting object right there. And yeah. And what we expect is a very strong, an object that has a very strong magnetic field that has produced and cut this channel in the sun, this gash in it. And we would expect it to be extremely strong, but not that large, because the gash is not that wide. So it may be an object of about that size above the surface of the sun, making an extremely strong connection, reaching way down to the bottom of the chromosphere and absorbing plasma from the sun. It may be an object of about that size. I'm not sure if it would be around anymore. Obviously, this channel got cut some time ago, but it may be actually that object. I cannot be sure of it. But it may be.
I wish we had a better view of that area. I'm going to go back later on this evening. I'm going to go back and I'm going to start re-examining this region. I'm going to turn a few of these screenshots into like 4K high definition. I'm going to see what I can actually find in that little white explosive area, because now I'm getting kind of suspicious that there may possibly be another smaller sphere right there with it.
Yes.
I mean, it's kind of unusual.
And they do seem to connect to each other on a certain level. I mean, when we saw that array, that hexagonal array, it looks like honeycomb, we can see that the corona goes up to encompass each of them separately. So at that stage, they're not connecting sideways to each other so that the corona envelops the whole group. It obviously envelops each of them individually. But I think they are able to connect to each other like they connect to the sun. So they're able to share energy between themselves as well as the sun. And this is why, as the sun weakens, eventually all the stellar cores will weaken as well, because they will share the energy amongst themselves. And this is why whenever we have a group of stellar cores, they will all end up with exactly the same brightness, because they share the energy amongst each other. And if the sun is not strong enough, does not have enough energy to go around to all the stellar cores that have come in, and they may still be coming in, then eventually the whole system will be completely dark.
So, Dr. Albers, let me ask you a question, and let's just get down to brass tacks here. Trying to make people understand what is actually happening out there in our inner solar system. What are the effects? I mean, do you think right now, today, do you think that we are feeling the effects of what is occurring out there by our sun with this object's interaction?
Yes, we definitely are, Scott. What happens on the sun affects the Earth. Through our magnetosphere, we are impacted by the solar wind. We are impacted by fast solar wind that comes from the coronal holes. We would be impacted by the particles that are coming out of the sun through this gash. And these particles, what they do is they ionize our ionosphere and create currents in the ionosphere, which then induce currents further down in the atmosphere and inside the Earth. And through these induced currents, earthquakes are electrical in nature. They are basically discharges inside the Earth, like lightning inside the Earth, and it creates thunder, and we feel this thunder as seismic activity, seismic waves, and we feel them as earthquakes. So these currents will induce earthquakes, and this is why we're having so many earthquakes. I don't think they are showing us exactly what kind of earthquake activity we are having. We only see a small fraction of what's happening. We sometimes see, when we look at the helioplots, that the whole Earth is shaking whenever we're having one of these earthquakes. So the Earth is ringing like a bell because of what's happening on the sun. It's connected to these objects affecting the sun. And it's not just that. I've shown that our weather is electrical as well, that water is a dipole that responds to these currents. When it flows upwards, it creates weather systems and clouds form. And therefore, these dramatic weather systems and how the weather is shifting so quickly has everything to do what's happening on the sun as well, due to these objects being there and affecting the sun. And of course, what is most dangerous is that one of these objects is able to create very strong solar flares, which happen whenever the electric fields at a certain spot on the sun gets extremely strong, extremely intense. So these solar flares are very dangerous for our planet. And they can bring down our whole power grid. They can create almost fire in the sky if it's very strong. This plasma can make its way all the way down to our atmosphere, and it will look like our atmosphere is on fire, basically. So this is very dangerous. An extremely strong solar flare can end life, at least in one portion of our atmosphere that would be facing the sun at the time. It can ignite our atmosphere if it's strong enough.
I definitely agree. You know, I mean, Major Ed Dames, a remote viewer for the military, you know, he's written a book many years ago called The Kill Shot. And during one of his remote views, actually one of his last before he retired from public speaking, you know, he foresaw this this kill shot, as he referred to it, and that would be a massive coronal mass ejection, plasma ejection, headed directly towards the Earth. And over all of his years in the military as a remote viewer, and you know, he said this was one of the scariest things that he ever saw. And he just literally, after years of public speaking, he just literally dropped off the face of the earth. He gave a last statement. After what I've seen, I'm, you know, going to retire. I'm going to spend the rest of this time with my family. And I followed Major Ed Dames for a long time. And I took some, you know, serious credibility into what he was saying, because I thought that was kind of odd that, you know, the man's enveloped in a very lengthy career as a public speaker, and then he just disappears, you know, gives that last statement. And during that seminar presentation out in Las Vegas, his last show, as you want to call it, he takes answer or questions from people in the audience, and he gives them an answer to every question, no matter what it's about. And one person asked, "Does Planet X exist?" And he paused for a moment, and, you know, he just looked at them and he said, "Yes, this object does exist. This will be the kill shot." So many people ask, when is Nibiru arriving? But ladies and gentlemen, you know, through all of my research and all of these years and delving into Nibiru, the theory of Nibiru, I mean, really, Dr. Albers and I, we know all about the history of Nibiru. You know, we've delved into everything there is to know about Zechariah Sitchin and his writings and the Sumerian tablets. But, you know, taking all of that into consideration and where we are at right now, you can call this object whatever you want. The fact of the matter is, we've now detected it over these last few years. We've gotten better at understanding it. We've gotten better at being able to detect it, because we do have a formulated timeline when we can expect on each calendar month to see this object. It is usually around this time of the month. But for the first time, we're actually seeing it in an Earth-facing view. That is a little startling. Mm-hmm. Okay. We are seeing very, very drastic changes in our weather patterns. And listen, whether you want to sit there today and you want to live in denial that these things are happening right now, listen, honestly, folks, you better wake up and take those blinders off, because you are now in the beginning stages of living in this nightmare. And, you know, just because it's not happening in your neighborhood or in your town or in your state Believe me, eventually there are going to be things occurring that's going to affect every single human being on the face of this planet that we call Earth. So again, you can live in denial about chemtrails. You can live in denial about the existence of Planet X because you are actually seeing it with your own eyes. And, millions and millions and millions, if not billions, everybody on this planet should know what is happening. They should know about what to expect. But, the powers that be, social media, big corporations, all involved in all kinds of cover-ups, they really don't want you to see or understand what is happening. Maybe they just don't want you having the knowledge that you would convert into preparation of some kind. I'm not talking about you going out there and becoming a hardcore prepper, live off of the grid type individual, but at least to know the basics for, emergency situations. And each and every day now, we are seeing extreme emergency situations developing within a blink of an eye. Massive landslides, all of these earthquakes, the volcanoes now, people being evacuated, massive hailstorms, massive downpours of rain just coming out of nowhere. It just happened in Perth, Australia. They just received, what did they say, 4 months worth of rain in 24 hours. Extreme heat, extreme cold, weather anomalies that are driving meteorologists insane because they're trying to explain the situations, and probably most of them have never even seen anything like this. Yes, they've all seen hurricane season. Yes, they've all seen snowstorms. But if you just listen to these meteorologists on the Weather Channel or your local news, and if they're really getting in there in depth and trying to explain what's happening, if you listen closely to the people on the Weather Channel, I've been listening to them very closely. They're really, really talking about this extreme strength in this upper northern hemisphere jet stream. This jet stream is just not like it should be. And it is literally upsetting the weather patterns around the globe. And they have become severely dangerous. If you look at what's happening right now, there is just a freak storm that has stretched from Houston, Texas, all the way diagonally across the eastern part of the United States, all the way up through Maine into Canada. It is wreaking havoc right now. Highways shut down. Hundreds of vehicles stuck on the highways. Cities like Atlanta, receiving severe ice and then snow. This storm is this Inga. It is moving across. I think they said it's about 2,000 miles long. A snowstorm, folks. That's 2,000 miles long. We've seen these Arctic polar vortex temperatures. We saw it last year. It was pretty bad. It created a lot of situations for a lot of folks living in these regions. But we're not even kind of at the halfway point of the Northern Hemisphere winter. We have more to come, and we are seeing extreme ups and downs. One day here on the Northeast coast, it was 60 degrees. The next day, it was 0. Massive flooding. I mean, you've seen me publicize over the last couple of days what's happening in my area here in Pittsburgh on the rivers with all of the ice flow, the warmer temperatures, the colder temperatures, the snow. These ice flows are wreaking havoc around the world, not only here in the United States. Canada's got some serious issues going on right now with these raging rivers, with chunks of ice that are 2 feet thick and the size of trucks and cars. And again, if it's not happening in your neighborhood today, you may wake up tomorrow and look out the window and holy hell. When does it normally snow in Houston? Well, when does it normally snow in Louisiana? Would you reference Atlanta, Georgia with snow? Or even northern Mexico? You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're kicking back there and you're in this little denial stage, and you're thinking that all of this isn't happening, you better think again. Because it is. And you know, this is some of the evidence that we've dug up. I doubt very highly, searching through any of the current SDO images, we probably won't find anything more, because they've probably took good care to make sure that we don't see it. This is another view of what we were looking at, and again, I'll zoom into it a little bit. You could see the perfect spherical outline right here. This object is definitely a distance away from the sun. You can see the clear stripes on it. This is not part of the background of the SDO. This is in a different wavelength of light. And you can see that plasma connection. It is clear as day. It has made a connection right here. It has deepened itself as this plasma river, as they call it. You can see that coronal hole here. You can see this other one up here developed. And these photographs are going back to, I believe this is the 12th or 13th of January. So these are, 3 days, 3 days old. And this object here, probably, further towards the actual center of the sun, maybe even moving more towards the right. And we've already seen a little bit of a considerable uptick in the earthquake activity.
Yes.
Just over the last 24 hours. But getting into this weather situation, Doctor, what are your thoughts on this crazy weather? Now, Dr. Albers is originally, she's Portuguese, and she's originally from South Africa, and that's where she spent the majority of her life and her teaching career. And, she's not, not out there playing in the snow in South Africa. But what do you think of all of the snow here in the Pittsburgh area now that you're seeing on a daily basis, and these absolutely Arctic temperatures? Do you like the below freezing temperatures?
Not at all, Scott. I'm not used to snow at all. I mean, in South Africa, we have this romantic view of seeing snow. But when you come here, there is no romance associated with it at all. You just wish it wasn't snowing. Because it's so cold, and I see that you keep having to shovel the snow. So it's hard work as well, and it's difficult to drive on it. It's dangerous. So it really makes life difficult. So I don't think I like it very much, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well, you're living in the northeast part of the United States. Even without all of this other chaos, we would still be having some pretty cold temperatures, and we would definitely be having the snow. Last winter, we had a pretty mild winter, kind of limited snowfall, a lot of very mild temperatures. The day after Christmas, it was 62 degrees on December 26th. We're going to continue to see a lot of these warm ups and cool downs and warm ups and cool downs. And, you know, folks, this is just going to create disasters in many, many different states. The disasters are going to come with these very fluctuating temperatures. You know, the flooding is what's going to do the damage. Just a few days ago, here in the city of Pittsburgh, we have 3 major rivers. They're all used for barge traffic, transporting, you know, aggregate, sand, and coal all the way down to the Mississippi. And the day we had that big thaw, I warned everybody that this was coming. And sure enough, you know, 48 hours later, bingo, here it is. And 60 barges broke loose from the heavy ice flow on the Monongahela River, the Allegheny River, and the Ohio River. And on the Ohio River, a lot of these barges jammed themselves into one of the locks and dams, damaging it and preventing them from closing the gates to control the water levels.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those barges, some of them sunk, they're all still jammed into this dam, this locks and these dams right now. A very serious situation. Still, a lot of ice flow on these rivers. I was reviewing some footage from a couple of different states and also up in Canada, over in Spain and France. And I have to say, it's pretty crazy. A lot of you have seen what I've uploaded onto the Planet X News Facebook page. And pretty terrifying situations. People having accidents. Oh, my Lord. You know, all over the East Coast and into the central part of the United States. And these temperatures are very, very cold in the north central part of the United States. Now, you know, one thing I'm really worried about is I was looking at some future forecasts, and there's some warm-ups coming again for states like Michigan. Michigan's taken a beating, and so has Wisconsin. But just imagine all of a sudden, all of the snow in Michigan, all of the ice, and now they're going to have 2 days of 40+ degree temperatures. What do you think is going to happen? So these are situations that we talk about being prepared for. And one of the biggest things that you could do, folks, is stay up on the information. That's the best advice I could give you. And whenever you latch onto that information, and we try to provide as much as possible, you can kind of get yourself prepared. So like I was just saying, for Michigan right now and parts of the East Coast, if you have a 24 to 48 hour notice that this warm-up's going to come and it's going to last for a couple hours or a couple of days, then you know that these river levels, these creeks, these streams, these lakes, these levels are going to go straight up. If you live in a flood zone or somewhere close to one, you know to take and heed caution. Have a little bit of a plan. You just never know what's going to happen. 2 weeks ago, Dr. Albers and I both ended up with frozen pipes and no electricity. Horrible situation. Horrible. No water for 3 days. The electricity was about 24 hours. Because of an ice storm that came through, dumped snow, accidents, and the frozen pipes, that's just because the temperatures dropped into the minus, sub-zero, man. It was cold. But that just right there goes to show you, wow, okay, now you have no running water, and now you have no electricity. So I have an electric furnace, which means I had no heat. And these extremes can strike, boom, at a moment's notice. And if you're not prepared or you don't have just a little bit of a plan, you're going to be in trouble. And I'm seeing a lot of people that because of these circumstances, they've got themselves into trouble. And some of these situations have cost people their lives. And that's just not good, folks. I mean, who wants to go out like that, freezing to death, having, an accident on one of these ice-covered roads, or getting stuck in one of these blizzards that just come out of nowhere? We see all of this happening. We're living it. And that's what I really want people to open their eyes to, is not, hey, when's this event going to be? It's not when this event is going to be, folks. And I've mentioned this many, many times. We are in the beginning stages of it. We're going to see transformations on this planet that you never dreamed of, that you never even thought in a million years that you would see or experience. Some of you may think it's a joke, but then you'll soon find yourself in a really bad situation. And then you're not going to think it's a joke anymore. We take what we do very, very seriously for a very good reason. The main reason is we care and would like to, educate people and help them understand that this is real. It's not a joke. It's not some dumb YouTube video put together by some, clickbait YouTuber. I mean, we really do scientific research, as Dr. Albers does, every day. And me, I'm a hardcore investigator, and I research my ass off every day to find this truth, because we feel that everyone has the right to know. You don't want to be taken out on a frozen highway. You don't want to be taken out freezing to death. Mm-hmm. A lot of variables, folks. A lot of things, real things to actually think about. The last storm that we had blow through a little over a week ago, a very good friend of mine, his uncle is an over-the-road truck driver, 25 years on the road. He left home that day, kissed his wife goodbye, and he said, "I'll see you later this evening." And, truck drivers, they do pay attention to weather up ahead of them. And, Joe just got caught in a bad situation on a highway locally here in the Pittsburgh area. And he ended up in a 17-car pileup, and he lost his life. 62 years old, left home that day, never thinking that he wasn't going to come back. And I'm sure his wife and his family thought the same thing. So don't think that for 1 minute that you are immune to any of this. Don't think so. As time moves on, folks, and we get through this winter time in this northern hemisphere, things are going to shift again. This planet is already wobbling. We are already experiencing somewhat of a tilt. Our planet is off kilter. Some will say and some will deny that this is happening, but they're liars. And I'll call them a liar right to their face if they even try to debate me on this. You can bring whatever scientific information or evidence you have, but it is happening. The weather that we're experiencing right now, the craziness with this jet stream, I don't think it could happen without our planet being tilted somewhat, therefore causing these jet streams in the northern hemisphere to go absolutely crazy and to push subarctic temperatures all the way to the border of Mexico and the United States, as deep as Texas. So you think to yourself, Well, when in your lifetime did you ever see something like this? The answer, never. So now you have to start thinking, what's causing it? So now you dig a little deeper, and you dig a little deeper, and then you start finding the answers. Some of those answers are scary, but you have to put fear aside in order to survive. Having the knowledge of what's happening creates the power within you. Remember, knowledge is power. The powers that be, they want to take that knowledge away from you. They want to weaken you. They want to dumb you down. They want to hide things from you. They don't want you to see the truth. Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to bust that wide open. We're here to piss them off. We're here to create a worldwide network of people that want to listen, that want the knowledge. And believe me, guys, all of you out there that get knee deep into this, you play a big, big part. Sharing the information that we're providing, you share it on your social media, big help. Making your own observations, referring those observations to Dr. Albers and I, big help. So don't think just because you're a YouTube viewer that you're doing nothing. You're actually doing something. You're paying attention, you're absorbing the information, you're talking about it, you're sharing it on social media and within your groups. You're part of that network now. And they want that network stopped. What do you think about that, Dr. Albers?
Yes, Scott, I believe that searching for the truth is extremely important. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. So when you look for the truth, you are looking at something which is part of who God is. God is truth. And as you said, we should be preparing for what is happening. And what could happen is we could lose our lives. So how do we prepare to lose for that event? We connect with our Creator. We develop ourselves spiritually because we need to prepare for the possibility of leaving this planet. And therefore, knowing the truth and what is going on our planet should lead us to prepare for that. Prepare by getting to know our Creator, developing a relationship with Him, and learning to trust Him. Because there are times when we go through events that seem to be scary. And we need spiritual help in order to deal with those events. So I would say this is what we should be looking at.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at right now, current temperatures, we're looking at the influx of this polar vortex once again, plaguing most of the United States. I would say just about all of it. And you're looking at about a turnout from Wednesday, the 17th, all the way through Friday, January 26th. This pink area up here, this is the extreme polar air. All of this region here that you see in the light blue naturally is snow and very, very cold temperatures. When you get into the green area here, you will see very moderate temperatures. Let's see if we could click on and get a temperature. This is actually for Friday the 26th. 37 degrees. Let's get a little further down here, way down in the southern tip of Texas. 49 degrees. Let's get up here in the pink area. Minus 13. And that's not a wind chill factor. Let's get over here to our area of Pittsburgh. 28 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and back this up. And I want you to pay very close attention. This is right now, this is our current situation. This is how far this jet stream has pushed into the United States. We could take a look at the jet stream. Let's go to wind. Go to 250 millibars. Ooh. Oh, Lord. Wow. This has really changed. You know, folks, I was just looking at this 3 hours ago. It was pretty insane. It's worse now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow. Yes.
Ooh. You know, folks, these bands of the upper jet stream here, in all my years of watching weather, I've never seen them this thick, this wide. They were making reference to this hours ago on the Weather Channel, and they were actually going into some detail about what's happening with this jet stream. And it is literally just plaguing Canada and the United States. Now, you know, you start thinking about Alaska. You know, ooh, Alaska, it's cold there all the time. I've been getting reports that you know, parts of Alaska are having some, you know, relatively moderate temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
If we could zoom in here, maybe get into the populated area. 19 degrees.
Wow.
Let's see what pans out over the next couple of days in this region of Alaska. Let's watch the temperature change and see what they're looking at. 18, 19. So at some points, it's colder in some spots in the eastern part of the United States than it is in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they catch that warm up over the next week. Nope, looks like they're out of luck.
Mm-hmm.
Unless something changes. Now we're getting into Alaska weather. There we go, -5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those warm temperatures that they were referring to up in Alaska over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, yeah, that just changed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd say -19 degrees. That's a bit chilly.
Yes.
Same thing's happening all around the world, folks, in the Northern Hemisphere. There are some countries that are having some moderate weather, as you could see, the UK, France, parts of Spain. But, you know, there are very, very severe temperatures that keep occurring as this polar air drifts down, fluctuates back and forth into India. These people are not prepared for this type of weather. The same as last year. Many, many people perished in the northern areas of India last year because they weren't prepared for Arctic temperatures. Many people froze to death. Just very sad.
Mm-hmm.
Australia, let's see how they're doing with their extreme temperatures. 114.
Wow.
Yeah, let's just kind of move this around a little bit. And 112. Now, right near the coast, look at the temperature drop.
Yes.
Just go a little bit of a distance. 112, 113. Over here on the coast, it seems to be, whoo, boy, 114 degrees.
Mm. Wow.
Doc, if you had to trade one thing,
Mm-hmm.
either cold or hot, what do you extreme cold or extreme heat? What do you want to face?
Sure, Scott, it's quite a choice. I think it's very difficult. Both can kill you.
Yeah. Very, very true. Yeah, folks. So we're definitely going to be seeing some more extreme weather events. We're going to take a look real quick at snow and what's coming in and what's coming out. And right now, this is the storm front that's moving across the East Coast. And earlier today, it had stretched all the way down to around Brownsville, Texas. Houston got some snow, but the storm was moving kind of quick. And then all of a sudden, it just slowed down. So, right now, areas of Louisiana, parts of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina and South Carolina are going to have their hands full. So is Virginia, parts of West Virginia, the DC, Maryland area. In the next few hours, we can go ahead and let this go through. It's happening now. And you could see, I stopped it right there. This is all moving through. So the next 12 to 24 hours, this storm will be moving off the coast. And it's definitely going to cause a lot of situations. And it's not the end of it. Like I said, it's only the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and let this run through till Friday, the 26th. You can see these just strange vortexes. They just keep coming one after the other. They remind me of little hurricanes, just the way that they react.
That's because we're getting intense low pressures.
Exactly. So, folks, this situation with our weather, it is going to continue. It's going to create some very, very trying times. And just like we did last year and going into this year, we are going to continue to monitor this weather every minute of the day because you really have to. Things are developing very, very rapidly. And I think that's something else that kind of confusing these meteorologists around the world because they're used to, watching a storm system. It's developed, they're watching it move in. But just like the hurricane season that we just went through, they watch it and then all of a sudden things intensify so rapidly. And they use that phrase, we've never seen this before. We've never seen this before. Well, that's an alert to me. You've got all these professionals out there saying, we've never seen this before. Hello. But now we are seeing it. So it's a big learning process. That's for sure. No doubt about it. So, Dr. Albers, you don't like this cold weather, do you? You don't like
Not at all, Scott. I don't like this cold weather. I was just thinking about the choice you gave me. I think I actually prefer the heat to the cold.
Yeah. I don't know about that 114 degrees. I mean, I lived in Miami.
It's extremely hot, but you can cope with it by, say, wetting your body and putting a wet towel on your body whilst the cold. I mean, what can you do except maybe dress up? But even that may not be enough.
Yeah. Very extreme situations. Hey, folks, real quick. Over on the Planet X News website, you guys need to jump in there, bookmark the website. I share all of the articles on our Planet X News Facebook page, and we'll go ahead and jump to that real quick here. All of the information that I share, it is always available right on the Planet X News Facebook page. Follow the page, folks. Get involved. Share the information, share the videos, share the articles that are on the Planet X News website. Everything is always posted right here on the Facebook page. We don't get the censoring that YouTube puts us through, so you can see all of the articles, everything that we do. It's all shared right here on the Planet X News Facebook page. Not too long ago, there was a meteor that was spotted over Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty intense.
Yes.
You know, we're seeing more and more and more of these meteors also. It's like at least a couple of times a week now that we're seeing them. But getting back to the Planet X News website, folks, definitely bookmark this site. Check out the articles. I put up a bunch of articles every day about what's happening, earthquake information, climate chaos. I put up all of the photographs and the live stream video for the new discovery that we made and the information that we just went over. Here was the article about thunderstorms, hail, and summer snow in parts of Tasmania in the Australian Alps. From one extreme to the other, thunderstorms, hail, summer snow. I saw a very strange video a couple of days ago of people in the Sahara Desert sled riding on snow down the sand dunes. Really? Sled riding in the Sahara Desert. What do you think about that, Dr. Albers?
Wow, that's amazing. Unbelievable.
Yeah, something that you don't see or hear about every day. Volcanic activity, folks, it is definitely on the rise over the course of the last 7 to 10 days. There have been 4 or 5 kind of dormant volcanoes that have all of a sudden, they're all waking up, spewing volcanic ash into the atmosphere. People being evacuated right here. Mayon volcano, 15,000 people evacuated. Extreme lava flows. Very, very interesting article to read, full of pictures and data. This was a very interesting article here, too. I got some video footage from January 12th. Gentleman was videotaping and filming the moon through his high-powered telescope, and he watched an object shoot directly off of the moon. Looked like a UFO to me. Looked like a UFO to tens of thousands of other people, and he showed it on his Facebook page. I think he got a couple of million views on that instantaneously. Here was a really good article about what scientists are saying about the fluctuations in the jet stream that is causing this extreme weather. Another good article we're watching is that huge crack and fissure that is formed on a mountaintop overlooking Union Gap and Yakima, Washington. We're talking about 1.3 million cubic yards of this mountainside that is going to eventually, very soon, come crashing down into the community of Union Gap, Washington. And there is a river right at the base of this mountainside across from a highway. If all of this landslide makes it over and plugs up that river, big, big problems in this community of Yakima and Union Gap, Washington. So that's going to be a very tragic situation when it does occur. Geologists are saying it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. So any type of seismic activity in this area, severe shaking, or severe rains could add to the speed of this landslide occurring. And it is going to be one hell of an event when it comes tumbling down. No doubt about it. Also, folks, on the Planet X News website, you could reach Planet X News on YouTube. You could reach Dr. Albers' channel. And we're going to go ahead and jump over here on her channel for just a second. What just happened to my screen? There we go. So listen, folks, YouTube started messing around with Dr. Albers' channel, just like they did to my YouTube channel. They have us very, very restricted, and they were removing subscribers, just deleting your subscription to my channel, her channel, and they've been doing it to many, many other people on YouTube that are in this truth community. Just awful. Nothing we can do about it, but stay prepared. So I'm asking that if any of you are not subscribed to Dr. Albers' channel, get over there, click on the link, and click on the little bell up here. When you click on that bell, I've been seeing a lot of reports about people saying that when they click on this bell, nothing happens. I tested it out myself, and I did find a few occurrences that when you click on the bell, nothing happens. You have to literally click on it, click on it, click on it, click on it till this drop menu comes up. Then when this drop menu comes up, you have the option of occasional notifications, none. You want to make sure all is clicked and marked. Include creator posts. You can check that. Save it. But first and foremost, folks, make sure that you are subscribed. Dr. Albers has been touching on many different subjects in her reports, and she writes all of her own articles. So, Dr. Albers, you are up to article 134 already.
That's right, Scott. 134.
So you've been in the United States since late June, early July.
Well, I arrived on June 29th.
Yeah. So since then, you've written 134 articles and published 2 books.
That's right. Yes.
Been busy.
Yes, I've been busy.
Do I keep you busy?
Oh, yes, you definitely do. And you're always making these wonderful discoveries. And you're making me think all the time as well, which is good.
Yeah, I do a lot of thinking. I do so much thinking. Sometimes it feels like my mind is just, it's going in every single direction, because we are truly trying to find answers, folks. And sometimes it's not that easy.
Yes.
There's always somebody out there that is trying to stop us, bring us down, humiliate us, threaten us, stalk us. Happens every day.
Yes. Unfortunately.
But we deal with it, ladies and gentlemen. Bottom line. Nothing you can do about it. You just go with the flow. But listen, folks, please get over there. Subscribe to Dr. Albers' channel. Share her videos. Share the information. Share. That's what it's all about. We have to do it. Before too long, folks, they're going to shut this information down. And that's it. When the lights go out, baby, they go out. They take down a power grid. We're in big trouble. Just think how you people freak out when you break your cell phone. I mean, you literally feel naked without your cell phone. You can't get on Facebook. You can't get on Twitter. Oh my God, you can't access the internet. Oh, my phone. Well, listen, folks, something occurs and, we lose that. We're in big trouble. We're going to go back to smoke signals.
Yeah.
But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to share all of this information with you. Wanted to have Dr. Albers on here to say hello. She's been very, very busy over the last 2 weeks, and we're going to try to connect with her a hell of a lot more, most definitely. But Dr. Albers, any last words, any last advice that you want to give everybody?
Of course, I always end by saying that we should be growing spiritually, connecting with our Creator, getting ready for the difficult times that are ahead, because I don't think they will be getting any easier. And I think spiritual growth and contact with our Creator is what we need the most at these times.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree. I don't think things are going to get any better anytime soon, folks. So, preparation in whatever way you think that you should be prepared. But in these extreme conditions, as far as the weather goes, folks, You know, you want to make it home every single day to your family. That is a big key. And the more and more that I see all of this info coming in, just tragic situations, and some of them can be prevented, just some of them can't. You know, so please be careful out there. If you guys are traveling, going back and forth to work, please keep yourself up to date with these weather conditions. Please. You know, if you have to download an app on your phone, if you have to keep, you know, referring back to the Weather Channel or your local news, please stay in tune with what is happening. There are very, very dangerous, very, very serious situations that are occurring with the weather. And it's just not here in the United States. It is literally worldwide. Everywhere has something, some type of very severe event going on. The more we know, the better off we're going to be. What do you think of that advice, Dr. Albers? Good advice?
Yes, I think so, Scott. It is good.
Well, listen, everybody, you all have a very, very good evening. Safe travels. Please make sure you're very cautious. Stay tuned to Planet X News. Join us on Facebook. Join us on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube channels. Help spread the word. Share the information. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And everybody who sends in information, sends in your questions, we really appreciate it. I do get a lot of emails. It does take me quite a bit of time to get back to everybody and answer these questions. I do my best, and so does Dr. Albers. But everybody keep your head up. You know, I'd like to say there are better times ahead. Hopefully there is. But pay very close attention to what's happening around you. It could possibly save your life. This is Scott from Planet X News with Dr. Claudia Albers, our Planet X physicist. Good night.
Good night.